Do I carry a gun with me always? Everywhere I go. This is the first time in 5 or 6 years I didn't have a firearm on me. I did bring a knife.
I personally hate guns now. When we were shot, there's nothing I could have done had I been armed with guns in every pocket.
So, no one is going to get it exactly the way you said it. So if that's your expectation, don't worry about that. We're very basically just telling the overall story from the other person's perspective and how they heard it. So don't get offended that the person doesn't get every syllable correct.
A big part of it is just understanding that you're turning this over to your partner. You're trusting them with that, and that trust comes with a degree of allowance, allowing it to be theirs, at least for that moment.
Yeah, so find a place where you can just focus together, the least distraction. There's lots of room around this building. Take your time, don't rush. Tell your story, take your notes. If you need a pen and paper, come and see us, all right? And just, there's a spirit of generosity in this, so just tell your stories, try and have fun as well, and get to know each other, right?
And you may think a lot of times when you hear this that, oh, it's going to take me 5 seconds.
Part of the problem, there's a failure of empathy in our political system. We're not willing to try to understand what it means to be someone else.
So if I feel this,
Do I see any validity in any of the concerns or objections coming from the anti-gun crowd? No, I do not. I think it's a lot of misinformation and people that are completely uneducated making an emotional decision and trying to justify it intellectually. George Zimmerman sold his gun through our website. We allowed him to do it. It sold for $250,000 to a person in Florida. A lot of people, especially the further left they lean, are disgusted that I would allow such an individual to sell a firearm through our website. It was the decision that we didn't think it was the responsibility of a website to dictate morality to its members, that we thought that if it was legal activity that we should allow an adult to make their own decision on what they wanted to do.
Everything I knew is gone. If people thought that could happen to them and thought they could actually lose their business, lose their house, lose their family, I think that gun would not have so much hold.
Well, I'm a firm believer everyone has that constitutional right to bear arms. During my first year as a police officer, I was involved in a police-involved shooting. I actually was assisting an outside agency with a search and seizure warrant. Instantly, I saw flash. That's all I can remember seeing. I don't remember seeing the silhouette. I just remember seeing the flash from the gun. I decided not to fire my gun during this situation. If I shot and I made that decision off of that impulse, I could have hit an innocent person.
They see somebody whose kid was murdered in his first grade classroom and say to me, you just want to get rid of all the guns. They just go right to from here to here. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that's what I've been saying. We went from people inheriting guns to being part of their lives to being told by the gun lobby that if you don't own this gun, you're not safe.
I have my gun with me in my home, and I feel so much safer knowing that should anything happen, I can defend myself.
You said that you didn't know anybody that had ever used a gun in self-defense. I have. I thankfully didn't have to shoot the person, but a road rage incident happened. A guy cut me off, I honked, he flips me off, I flip him off back. Stupid. Then he proceeded to follow me, cut me off, swerve at me. Having my wife pregnant at home and knowing I was getting closer to home, there was no way I was going to allow that guy to follow me home. So I went ahead and pulled over. He slams on his brakes behind me, kicks open his door, and comes storming at me. And I had my gun right there, and I had it pointed out the window. And the second he got up right next to the window, he saw the gun and looked at me and said, "I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry," and then turned around and drove off. This woman right here.
Yeah, this is Kirsten, and she was just so beautiful on the inside and just full of joy and, loved life, and everybody loved her because she was so kind. She was just this gentle, kind, loving girl. That morning, she had a drama final and was dressed up in my clothes, my lace dress, and I remember her twirling in the sunlight before school. She came to my bedroom, and it was still dark inside, but the sunlight was coming through the window, and it was just lighting her curly hair and the lace in her dress, and she just was like this silhouette, this glowing angel. So I was shot 3 times with the shotgun. And then as I looked over to her, he put the gun on the side of her head and blew the back of her head off while I watched. And I remember her face like being just so surreal, looking at her, and her head is gone, and there's her hair everywhere and her brains everywhere, but her face was intact, and she's looking out like just this beautiful, sweet face. And I'll never forget her beautiful face just looking out into the store, and there's nothing behind it.
I've had 2 first cousins who have gotten killed due to gun violence. One was shot 18 times in his car with his girlfriend. It's a double homicide. And the other was shot by a police officer in the gangway of his own home. So I have mixed reactions and concerns to the police. You have to be worried about which cop is going to come. They had nicknames, Batman and Robin, never run from them. So we had these rules that we had to live by.
I remember communicating with Foxtrot, which is our helicopter, letting them know, hey, I think this is the moment. We need to pull this car over. I saw the right passenger door open up. Swung open. And then after that, all I could see is flash. I bunkered in between my door and the seat. And I continued to hear the rounds strike the car. For many months after that incident, I felt as if I made the wrong decision because I didn't shoot. So, that's my story.
Good job. Good job.
And I really appreciate hearing you say your cousin was shot by a police officer.
And I was a bit of a surprise because I was born with a lot of disabilities. Going in and out of the hospital for corrective procedures. And then I got fitted with a prosthetic leg, which made life pretty easy. I'm a poet, so I was in grad school and I put out a book of poetry with a salacious title, The Amputee's Guide to Sex. And some stalker behavior started happening after that publication of the book. It was online at first, but then one of the guys showed up at a reading and it was scary. So that's the first time I asked my dad to buy me a gun because I was living alone and I didn't feel safe as a woman. And it also made me start to think of what it means to be a disabled woman. We're 3 times as likely to be assaulted by someone more than even non-disabled women. And all of a sudden, my phone started to ring. And my friend told me that there had been a shooting at Sandy Hook School. About midnight, the police showed up and they said that he was one of the 26 people murdered that day.
Welcome. Thank you for, being 16 of the most courageous people we came in contact a couple of days ago. We've been hanging out, and now we're actually going to participate in the story exchange. There's no commentary on the stories. You're going to tell your partner's story the best way you heard it. So, without further ado, I just think we should just begin. Yes.
And at the time, there was this man there at the reading, and essentially he stalked me. And it was terrifying, and I called 911, and I lost my faith in 911 that day because they were just so slow, and I felt completely unprotected. So I got a gun to protect me. I have a revolver, Smith & Wesson, that I keep the gun on my night table because I'm terrified for my life. I'm Jillian.
We finished our drinks at Starbucks and I drove him to school. He was so excited to go to school that day. He jumped out of the car and he ran towards the school doors and he forgot to close the car door. The last thing I said to him was, "Close the door." It was December 14th, 2012. It was an AR-15. Later, we found out from the autopsy report, it was 4 bullets. It would only have taken 1, but it was 4. After it happened and I went to the school and the officer drove me home and I knew Benny was gone, I started baking brownies. I really did. I started baking brownies. And a friend came over and she said, "What are you doing?" I wanted to be normal. I wanted us to be normal. There was nothing special about us. We lived in a low-crime area. I didn't even know anybody. Or maybe I knew one family who owned a gun. I hate when people say to me, "I can't imagine." I want you to imagine it. I am a woman of faith. If Benjamin Andrew Wheeler were alive today, he would be 10 years old.
One day my friend and I were arrested for vandalism because we were caught throwing tomatoes in a field. The cops brought me home and my father was so upset he punched me in the face with his fist, full force. And that was the first time I stood up to my father and I said, "Are you telling me because I threw tomatoes in a field you're going to hit me with your fist?" And he backed down and never hit me again because he realized that I wasn't going to take it. I suffer with the effects of MS, and if anybody wanted to take me down, I'd be an easy target. So I carry a gun because it keeps me safe. I feel safe if I have a gun. It levels the playing field. I just want to keep my family safe. My name is Todd.
My name is Carolyn. I'm an artist, was self-employed, I had my own company. What I was most proud of in my life was what I was most proud of is I was a mother. I loved my kids. I had 2 boys and 2 girls. My daughter, Kirsten, was a social butterfly, an amazing woman, had a heart of gold. It was near Valentine's Day. She wanted to go get some cards for some of her friends. So we went to the mall in Salt Lake City. We hear a loud bang. We didn't know what it was. And then I saw the shooter stand in front of me. He shot me in my arm. And I was on the ground and he shot me again in the back. And then I watched him put the shotgun against my daughter's head and ended her life. I complained to my daughter about her messy room at times. I would give anything to be able to have a messy room again. My name is Carolyn. You and I want the same thing. I can't imagine what you want. But
I can't imagine. I don't. Is there a way to phrase what you want to say in some other different kind of
I
way?
mean, you told my story. You didn't offend me, but at the end, because it wasn't in first person, you threw in a bunch of stuff that wasn't necessary.
But I wasn't happy with the way you told my story.
Can I be a little bit of a peacemaker here?
This has to be about dialogue. It can't be about debate.
You couldn't do the full thing, but then you're going to criticize me.
Wait a second.
for my
Hold on.
work.
I'm not criticizing
You
you.
did.
I'm telling you
You just
what
did. You said it wasn't enough emphasis.
Wait a second.
I didn't want to leave on that note. I got up and left. Not because I was mad at anybody, but I didn't want it to take away from my own personal experience. I wanted to leave looking at everybody like a dear friend.
So whatever happens here.
Maybe it's because your story isn't honest.
Okay.
And you're not honest. Listen, we're gonna stop this here.
I just want to be positive and to say something real quick because one, I hope she didn't leave. But I'm sorry to step out of turn. But everyone knows we're police officers. I do feel, she feels, we all feel, we empathize. We have feelings. And I respect what you said just as well as I respect what she says. We can't take it on. And that may be your truth, that may be your moment. You can't take it on. If it means anything, regardless of what may or may not happen, this moment meant the world to me, and I really believe it.
When I listen to Carolyn's story, you don't comprehend all the little emotions until you're forced to tell the story in a firsthand experience.
Todd, after we were done with the exercise, you know, we did form some kind of a I don't know if it's a friendship, a bond, because we put ourselves in each other's shoes. And that was really strange. But I do understand that he feels like he needs to, like he says, level the playing field and protect his family. I'm sad that there's so much fear in people. that they feel like they need to carry a weapon everywhere they go.
I get it. I see her point. I understand what she's saying. I disagree on the solution.